Hey PCWorld fans, I'm here at the Framework offices with Nirav. Nirav, please tell the fine folks at home who might not be familiar with you what you do here at Framework.
Sure, I am the founder and CEO, which means I help make all these great products.
Nice, yeah. Now, Framework, known for repairability, upgradability. You just announced a new version of your 16-inch laptop, which we'll get into the details of that. But you've got new guts for a 13, a 12-inch. You got the Framework desktop. You got a lot going on.
That's right.
But I kind of want to step back for a second and say you're pretty much 5 years on from launching this whole thing. Like, how do you feel like you're at now from when you thought you were going to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know we made some very, very bold claims for a little startup back in 2021.
Right.
We got a little bit of skepticism at the time. But actually, the thing that was encouraging was that it was clear that we had a lot of interest and enthusiasm right from the start. Like, it was so obvious that the problem we were solving needed to be solved, that people were excited that anyone was even going to try it at all. And so then year after year since then, actually proving that out, this whole idea that you can build products that last longer by making them repairable and upgradable, we've just gotten more and more interest and excitement. And then we've been able to take that from that first product, the 13, now category by category into those three other newer categories.
Okay, nice. And what 5 years ago did you think was going to be harder than it actually was? It ended up being easy in this
Sure,
journey.
yeah. What's been hard and what's been easy? Yeah, I guess maybe something that has been, actually one kind of surprising thing that's been a lot easier than I expected it to be is actually going from consumer to also getting our products into businesses. Like when we started this thing out, like the assumption was, why would a business buy hardware from a startup, buy laptops or computers from a startup? Like, wouldn't they want to go to like these big old mature companies? And it really did, pretty obviously in retrospect turn out that the same problems that all of us as consumers face with our computers, businesses have those same problems, especially small businesses that don't necessarily have like giant enterprise support packages. And so like breaking into SMB and now actually more recently even larger businesses has just been like a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, it all started with the Framework 13. And that's kind of where things grew from there, like you mentioned, and we'll talk about the 16 in a minute too. But like the Framework 13 has been the linchpin. You've upgraded it multiple times, not just the processing and the main board in there, but newer webcam, newer screen, all that kind of stuff that people can still go buy new parts for their original generation 13. Has anyone ever like completely ship of Theseus a Framework 13?
We do see that. Yeah, we see it in the community a lot, that people have gone from the original 11th gen, Intel 11th gen, to latest generation, part by part, and then eventually just pick up the rest of the missing parts and have a second computer. And then of course the question becomes like, which one is the original?
Right, yeah. Well, which begs the question, like, how do you support that? How do you have like warranty for that? If somebody bought the original computer and they are kind of moving parts around, like how do you?
Yeah, this has been interesting. I mean, there's like a lot of our operational surface area that is just very, very unique to the way we develop our products. And we've had to like come up with solutions that other companies like don't have to face. And so for warranty, for example, the thing we landed on was basically when you buy the product, it is just a collection of modules, and each of those modules carry the warranty of the original system. So if you take that main board out of the laptop, put it into our like mainboard case, the Cooler Master mainboard case, that mainboard is still under the original warranty that was under in the system.
Okay, that's nice. And I mean, it's still all based around the same familiar chassis. Like you're assuming that somebody has that original chassis and you're kind of swapping parts in there. Like, how long are you going to support this 13-inch chassis? It's 5 years now.
Yeah, sure.
But at some point, I'm sure you'll have a new design or move forward? Or?
Yeah, I mean, like the whole basis of the categories that we choose, and like us starting with laptops as the initial set of categories, was that the use cases and the form factors and the architectures have really matured to a place where there isn't really strong justification to like do hard resets. Because like the ergonomics of like this placement and like, the general form factor, it's pretty stable. And so as we've looked at the last 7 generations now of building this product, and also like look out into the future at technologies coming down the road, we don't see anything that would force us to drive a hard reset.
Really? Okay.
And obviously, like as you noted, going from the original one in 2021 to now in 2025, the 7th version of this, we have still replaced almost every part of this thing. And so basically, as we look at like additional things we want to unlock in the future on this roadmap, we still, at least for now, for the visible future, foreseeable future, can keep doing that in a way that we can hold on to cross-compatibility while still like driving pretty major updates and upgrades through these module level changes.
I mean, theoretically, could you keep going, or do you think there would be an end date?
It is possible, like enough will accumulate over time, new technology slowly over time, that we'd look at that and say like, it doesn't really make sense to continue that original architecture. And even with that though, like we would likely have some overlap period between any like hard break where we're still extending on longevity of an original architecture.
Okay, that's interesting. And one of the claims of fame is the expansion cards.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we talked earlier off camera about the fact that you're kind of leading USB.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Not only in the expansion cards, which I mean, you've introduced a whole host of them. Obviously you have USB-C standard ones like Type A, Type C, HDMI, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, you've moved into having storage drives, even like RJ45. Like,
we're doing a lot here.
it's great. Like, I mean, where else do you want to go? Like, do you feel like there's other expansion cards to move into?
Yeah, we can definitely keep pushing on this. And like one of the interesting things on this, like going back to this, just us pushing the leading edge of USB, is like our architecture and firmware leader, Kieran, has, like, as you look at this, like a lot of this firmware and architecture has come from him. And like, as we continue to scale up the product lines, one of the things we try to do is like, oh, actually, can we find someone who can like join the team to like provide additional expertise and like bandwidth to do USB firmware development, USB PD development. And as we went out in the world, we realized like, oh no, it turns out like we're already at the edge. Like no one else knows more that we can find. Unless anyone out there knows someone great, like we would definitely want some help on USB PD firmware. But yeah, like as you look at like a lot of the things here, 180, 240 watt USB-C power adapters, the expansion card system, a lot of, especially like the power saving work we've done on these different cards, a lot of that is just us adopting latest and greatest USB technology. And so like as USB IF continues to like push their roadmaps further, we're always watching and seeing like what else can we pull in from that.
I mean, because that is like key to the whole experience. Like you said, the same expansion card can work on the 13 all the way up to the brand new desktop. Right. And of course now the 16.
That's right.
I mean, the 16 has even more ports,
Yeah,
like it's like 3 per side. Yeah. Which is pretty nuts. You can kind of customize to your heart's content. But yeah, so let's dig into are you calling it the second generation? Is there an official name of?
Yeah, this gets tricky. So the way, I actually just this morning with our head of marketing, Marissa, we were talking through like naming complexities, which is another one that like uniquely we have some challenges that we have to work through that a lot of other brands don't. And so like basically the thing we've landed on for naming is we do the product family name, Framework Laptop 13, parentheses, platform generation. So we don't do like years, because like there are years we've got multiple different Framework Laptop 13 versions we launch. And so this we call Framework Laptop 16 AMD Ryzen AI 300 series. I had to think about it because there's a lot. AMD's put a lot into that name.
Well, because there's a new processing platform.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, the AMD Ryzen series. But also, I think the big thing people are excited about is now an NVIDIA option for the external GPU, or it's not an external GPU. Like what's
it's let's see. I guess we call it the graphics modules. It's a modular GPU.
Okay. Yeah. So like I know a lot of people appreciate the AMD graphics that were in the original. But it sounds like a lot of people wanted NVIDIA. What are kind of the steps that it took to get an NVIDIA option in this?
Well, we've seen both. Like we do still have an AMD graphics option for the new Framework Laptop 16. So we've kept actually the original Radeon 7700S module that we launched with the original, also as a configuration option, because especially for Linux users, there is a lot of preference for the AMD drivers, which we totally get. But yeah, we saw a lot of interest from gamers, also especially people doing CAD work in professional applications. Like the software support is just still a lot stronger on NVIDIA. And we knew from the start, like when we started architecting Framework Laptop 16, we did it deliberately knowing we don't want to be single vendor limited on the GPU. We know we're going to want to enable that flexibility. And so it's really starting to work with NVIDIA early to figure out how do we engage, not just on a technical level, but even commercially in like a mode that NVIDIA has not done for laptops in many generations, back to like going to MXM cards, basically.
Yeah. And so why, right now the configuration is an RTX 5070 laptop version. Right. Why specifically target that one? Is it like just a TDP or TGP and thermal management kind of stuff?
Yeah, a lot of it is that. I mean, we kind of, with the 5070, especially with this architecture here, is kind of the sweet spot when we look at like the dimensions, the thermal headroom, the price. It ends up being like the sweet spot in this generation, the 5000 series generation. And so we also know just in general, like the 60, 70 class is where the market, like the mass market is. And so that is the place that we wanted to focus on to get into this thing. And as we laid this out, like we actually did originally design this expansion-based system, this graphics module, deliberately in this way where it extends off of the back of the laptop, because we knew we wanted to preserve flexibility mechanically to be able to change the depth of it in this dimension or this dimension, and also the entire internal layout to be able to make sure we could handle generation to generation changes. And the thing we found actually as we started working with the 5070 is that we didn't need to change this shell at all. We actually were able to drop right into the existing geometry there. So like thermally, but also mechanically, electrically, it ended up really being a perfect fit for what we had designed as this module system.
Really? Oh, okay. Did you have to change anything about the heat pipe layout, the thermal interface material?
Yeah, so the heat sink and heat pipe is a new design specifically to match like the die geometry and also the voltage regulation geometry for the GeForce part. And then actually we did make some small modifications to the shell to basically re-optimize the airflow pattern to improve acoustics. And we moved to the Honeywell phase change thermal interface material. So basically like a bunch of refinements mechanically, but then still being able to hold on to the original architecture.
Okay, any plans on a newer generation of Radeon in the works?
We want to keep working with AMD. Obviously, we've got now multiple generations of AMD products on the CPU side, so anything AMD has for us, we're always happy to work with them. Okay,
nice. Well, now, I mean, you're checking companies off of the list.
That's right.
You have AMD and Intel on the processor side. For the GPU, you've got AMD and now NVIDIA.
Yep.
Any Qualcomm options?
We get that ask a lot. Actually, the ask moves around. So when we launched with Intel, the ask was always AMD when, and then we got AMD, and then the question was
Intel when,
or was that NVIDIA when, and now we got NVIDIA, and so it's Qualcomm when. At some point in the future, if we have Qualcomm, sure, there'll be another brand out there that'll become the when.
Yeah. Okay, and then also, so getting into some of the other changes, the panel is now G-Sync.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, which level of G-Sync? Is it just like certified? Does it actually have the hardware in there?
It is just, it's the base certified version. So actually the panel is the same panel that we originally launched as just regular VRR FreeSync with the original AMD version.
Oh, okay.
But the G-Sync version is actually new firmware that's baked into the panel itself to be able to support the G-Sync standards and go through their certification process.
Is that something somebody who has the original 16 can go back?
Not at the moment. This is something we worked pretty deeply with the panel vendor on to figure out, is there any way to do this? It is something that, like many things we do, they'd never been asked before. So we worked with them on this, and at least so far we haven't identified a way to like have end user firmware updatability. If we could ever land that, like obviously we want to land that, and then we would put that out into the world, but at least for now we don't see a path to technically being able to enable that.
Okay. I want to get to the charger as well. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but this is the first, or one of the first. USB PD 3.1
That's right.
chargers up to 240 watts.
Yeah, 240 watt, 48 volt, 5 amps. So this was what we launched in the first go around, 180. We were the first to ship a 180. And we knew we wanted to push beyond that. And actually at the time, when we first built this, it's not that we wanted to stick to 180, it's that actually the silicon did not exist to be able to do a 240 watt power adapter.
Really?
So we pushed the standard as far as we could at the time.
Wow.
And then the silicon showed up, we were able to kick off this program, and now we're one of the first to ship with 240 as well.
I mean, number one, I got to say that's a very small brick compared to a lot of other laptops in that TGP range. Also, do people really want the USB PD charging specifically, or do you actually have some customers that are like, man, I wish I had a old school barrel jack?
We do not get a lot of asks.
Really?
For barrel.
Okay. All right.
I think there are people who own like existing, legacy hardware.
Wow, legacy. Okay.
Legacy hardware who would like to be able to reuse it. It would be nice to be able to reuse it, but we're going all in on USB-C. USB-C really is the future, especially for power.
Okay, and one of the other things too is the keyboard. The next generation kind of has more of a rigidity to it.
So for the 13 this year, we introduced a new geometry for the keyboard internally, the key structure. Basically, that replaces on the longer keys, the bigger keys that have a metal structure normally, like a metal linkage bar internally that can rattle when the speaker is playing. We switched that to a new design that is actually entirely plastic that doesn't have that same resonance. On the 16, actually, we didn't have that same issue. Just the way the speakers are coupled to the chassis, we didn't have that, so we didn't need to make that change. We did make some artwork changes, though. Like for our default keyboard, we actually no longer have the Windows logo. This is now our Windows keyboard that has the Copilot.
Yeah,
So
you got. I mean, how else are you going to get the AI going unless you
know.
get the Copilot button?
I'm never going to be able to figure it out if I didn't have the button there. So that was one change. The other change is we did also update the firmware to just change some of the behavior around the sleep state.
Okay, and I mean if for people who don't know, the other thing about this keyboard layout is that you can shift it around. It has these tiles.
Show that.
What are kind of some of the layouts, like the most common layouts you're seeing people use? Just that kind of default where everything's centered? Or?
Yeah, the two most common ones are that default layout and then just doing some cosmetic customization with these spacers on the left and right. This is a LED matrix programmable. And we've seen a lot of actually cool community software projects to like display different types of information, like battery level or like you got an email or whatever else. And then the other common one, of course, is sticking that numpad in there with the keyboard offset.
That would probably be my go-to. Person.
Yeah, it's a very controversial topic.
Really?
Numpad or no numpad.
Oh, okay.
But we resolved the controversy by just giving people both.
Give people the option.
Yeah.
And these are pogo pins. What is this?
Yes, this is a pogo interface that has USB and power over it. And the idea there was, of course, we can support these modules that we're building, but then also enable the community to design their own modules, which we've also seen for the expansion card system, a lot of community-developed expansion cards, which have been like very cool to see.
Well, and you have another keyboard layout here that's
which
non-standard.
we can show. I'll just pull this over here. So this is another use of our input module system. And so what we've done here, this is an ortholinear keyboard. This is actually just a proof of concept. But the cool thing here is that normally for a laptop keyboard, it's just a monolithic mechanical design where there's single membrane, single basically like flex that has all the circuitry on it, single mechanical bracket structure, all that all together in the layout that it's in. And so it's fixed into that layout. We know that in the desktop world, of course, there's a lot of interest in keyboard customization, a lot of different ergonomic layouts, not something that's really been able to be done in a laptop before. And so we want to try to enable it. And so what we've done actually is that each of these keys, instead of being attached together rigidly, they are individual key modules, actually similar to what would exist in the desktop world as like a key switch module.
Oh, okay.
And obviously just much, much thinner to be able to fit into this form factor. And then with that, we're actually going to be releasing these we call one key modules out as a product that people can then buy and design their own custom keyboard layouts and be able to fit into that form factor.
Wow, that's why. But it's not available yet.
It is not available yet. This has been long in development. There's much like everything else, there's a lot we had to invent to make that that work. But we are getting pretty close on being able to get that out there.
Could something like that also exist on the 13-inch? Or?
The bigger challenge on the 13 is that those keycaps still fit into this lattice structure that's part of the overall input deck. And for 16, we designed it in a way that is a separate module.
It's its own separate thing.
It's basically ends up being a lot easier to just develop develop custom modules, even with like a custom lattice that's just, you know, a laser cut plastic piece or something. Whereas this is like pretty complex tooled part.
Got it. Yeah, so, I mean, are there any other details that you want to highlight about the 16 that's
Yeah,
gonna
what
be
else
new
did
in
we
this
do
version?
that's new? We've revamped the thermal system in a bunch of places, you know, just like we did on the graphics module side with the new heat pipe there. We have a new heat pipe internally with the new Ryzen 9 300 series. We, of course, also have that Honeywell phase change thermal interface material. And the cool thing on 16 is actually that the fans are part of this graphics module because the TGP is higher than the TDP. We want to make sure that if we're putting in like different GPUs in the future that have higher thermal needs, that can actually come along with that graphics processor itself. And so we've actually also re-optimized the fans. So it's a new fan blade geometry that improves the acoustics and thermals overall. And then also one other thing we've done on the expansion cards here is that in the original Framework Laptop 16, we had video output on 3 of the expansion card slots. Now we have it on 4. So the rear two are USB 4. The next ones up can do USB 3.2 and DisplayPort output. And the front ones are USB 3.2 only. But basically, now you can connect up to 4 displays simultaneously.
Huh, okay. And actually, that leads me to a question that I wanted to ask, is that I've noticed on the framework devices, there's no clear indication of any of those speeds and feeds.
Sure,
and,
yeah.
And I, you know, like, it's definitely something that is kind of not standard across all laptop manufacturers. So, you know, I think USB-IF has their own standards. Why not include any sort of...
Yeah, and this gets even trickier for us because, of course, you upgrade that main board and we had the stickers or artwork on the chassis, now it no longer matches. And so we, of course, documented on our website. We're trying to think through ways where we can like maybe show it as part of like the BIOS menu just to be able to get that reference.
like some sort of map or
Yeah,
something.
some way to just get that reference information easily, but printing it on the chassis itself just has its own problems.
Okay, and my last question is, everything about all these devices can be configured with one tool.
That's right, yeah, the one
tool
screwdriver that comes in the box.
Why limit yourself? Do you need to limit yourself? Could
We
you just say,
actually-
maybe 2 tools?
We haven't found that we've needed to take any major mechanical trade-offs by doing T5, so Torx T5 as one bit, and then you flip that bit over and there's Philips PH2 or PH0. For Framework Laptop 13, 16, and 12, we've been able to hold to that. For Framework Desktop, we actually did do a different tool because we needed PH2 instead of PH0.
Oh, okay, so a little bit
So
bigger.
technically we have 2 tools that just span 2 different product lines.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah. I mean, it is cool. It's great that if you have that hardware, you know, it should theoretically work across the whole family. So we're here at the offices. You got a cool staff going on here, cool environment. Do you ever do races amongst the staff to be like, hey, who can configure the laptop the quickest?
We actually do. So we do now annual workshops. In the very early days, we did them a bit more often. We do annual workshops. We bring in everyone, all 70 people now across the US and Taiwan into our headquarters. And every time we do a workshop, we actually do what we call the friendly competition, where we do a repair competition. It is different each time. But we've done like speed swap of mainboard. We've done relay races where like each member of a group has to like change a different part. We did blindfolded battery swap, which was exciting. And you'd be surprised actually at which team members end up being the fastest.
Really?
Like you would think like, oh, it must be like maybe an engineer. Maybe
No, I would
support
just assume
team.
that somehow you won every single one. Weird.
I've, I've been near the top, but actually there is someone who was faster than me, which
Really?
was Anne, who was our original lead visual designer. And she's just fast and competitive in general, but also for like photo shoots, she's just tearing down and putting together stuff over and over again.
Wow.
And so she got really, really fast.
Good job, Anne. The Anne Award.
Yeah, that's
what
right.
you called it around here. All right.
That's right.
And then, so I guess last question is, when is it coming out? People can pre-order right now?
Yep, so we're
but it
in
hasn't
pre-order
launched
right
yet.
now. We just opened pre-orders a few weeks ago. It's been selling really well, actually, which has been great to see. And we're going to start shipping in November for the first batch. I think the current batch that's open is still in Q4, and later into Q4, but that first batch will ship in November.
Okay, and how big approximately are those batches?
Those batches are something I'm not going to share because it's
okay.
competitively important information for us to hold on to. But yeah, we always, of course, try to scale up our production capacity to catch up. So the Framework Laptop 12, we're actually very, very close to being in stock. Within a couple weeks, we'll be in stock on Framework Laptop 12. Desktop, we just had a ton of demand, so we're still working through those batches. But we're doing it as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I was lucky to get one of the early batches.
Oh yeah, great.
So yeah, no, I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I know you do talk a lot with the community. I mean, that was
Sure.
you did a fantastic video about just digging into the details of here. Definitely go encourage people to go watch it. And a lot of these were because you got community feedback.
Yeah.
What is the best way for people to get in contact with you if they have some sort of recommendation?
Yeah, we definitely have a very active community. So we have a community forum at community.frame.work. We also have a Discord that is also very active. And I'm actually always in our community forum, especially in our creator section of the forum, because there's just wild projects going on in there. So I just look in there and see what people are building.
Okay, well, I hope to come back in 5 years again
Great.
and be able to keep talking about this awesome work you're doing.
Looking forward to
I
it.
appreciate it, Nirav. Thanks everybody for watching. Once again, go watch Nirav's videos over on Frameworks, and if you want to see more PC hardware coverage, subscribe here on PC World as well. Check you in the next one.